All right, good morning, everybody. Friday edition of Concrete Jungle. A little bit delayed. We have some technical issues earlier this week, but we're all situated and ready to go here back. Third floor, North Park Building, fingerlakes1.com. I am Paul Russo, joined once again by Kyle Evans, man, the myth, the legend himself, sitting over in the spot. And good to have Nate Sharman, producer, back. He is back off the IL list. So, Nate, good to have you back. Good to see that you are fully back and healthy. Give the people a little bit of a view. How you feeling? Good to have you back. How you feeling?
Yeah, great to be back. Was a pleasure to watch you guys off air as I was, like you said, on the IL. A little bit more depressing on the Yankee side. Mets have been rolling, so I guess we'll get into that as a little preview. But I'm ready to be back and happy to be here.
All right. Kyle, how's the week been for you so far? Haven't seen you since Monday, so.
It's going pretty well. I'm excited that we're able to actually, do our second episode this week.
Yeah.
As you said, we had technical difficulties, but yeah, I'm just glad to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's becoming a tale of, for sure two different teams in New York City, I'd say. Both teams are above 500, but it's different scenarios for different teams, and it's a fair discussion because we talked Monday a little bit about how it seems like when the Yankees are good, the Mets tend to not be good. When the Mets are good, the Yankees tend to not be good. The rare situation where they both been good, they both met in the World Series, oddly enough. But like I said, that they appears to be the outlier, and so I think this season is kind of the just the I wouldn't say status quo of kind of like the ebb and flow of things, but it's following that, I guess, path of what we kind of usually expect with the Yankees and Mets in terms of where they're exactly at at any given one time compared to each other. And baseball fandom / lore, I guess, right, is we always joke about how, well, the Mets are the Mets, kind of, and we jokingly will mockingly sing about beating the Mets, but this year it's roles reversed, at least for our lifetimes, it feels like, right, where it's the Mets are the new Yankees and the Yankees are the new Mets. So we'll jump into it, I guess, at that point, in this point. Let's start. Do we want to go the positive route or the negative route? It's Friday. I kind of feel like we should start on the positive route, but
Yeah, let's go with the Mets.
all right, we'll go with the Mets first. I'm with you, Kyle. Start on the positive route here to get the Friday and the weekend going here. So obviously, this past week for the Mets, this was billed as a series that was very obviously pitcher heavy. Early contention for potential series of the year only because of those pitching matchups. Did get delayed by a day. Monday was just a rough weather day for all of us here in the Northeast. There was, I don't think, a single game really spared outside of, I think, Boston with the Patriots Day game being so early on in the day at 11 a.m.
Yep.
Other than that, I know pretty much, like I said, games from Washington all the way up to New York City were postponed due to weather that day. Obviously, the Mets were no exception with that against the Giants. So we had a twin bill on Tuesday. The afternoon slate, or, well, I guess as afternoon as you can kind of get, they did a more or less a classic true doubleheader where they got the first game going at about 4 o'clock, and then the second game half an hour after whatever it was after the first game. So Game one of the doubleheader on Tuesday, a 5-4 Met win. Adam Ottavino picked up the win coming out of the bullpen for the Mets. Yarlin Garcia for the Giants took the loss. Again, it's awesome to kind of see this Mets offense kind of in work. I know a lot of the talk so far has been on that pitching, and justifiably so. Obviously, we know what Scherzer can do. DeGrom's out of the picture, so that creates kind of headlines on its own. But, guys like Megill, obviously Carrasco, Bassett, right, have been doing really well. But again, the guys on offense here kind of led the way in this game a little bit. Lindor 2 for 5 with a double, excuse me, a couple RBIs and a stolen base. Jeff McNeil picked up a double and 2 RBIs, and then Sterling Marte hit with a stolen base. So look, those guys when you get going, and because again, the way baseball operates, right? I mean, the classic Nike commercial about chicks dig the long ball, right? It's all about home runs and everything like that. That's what quote unquote sells you the tickets, stuff like that. So a lot of emphasis for the Mets does get put on, say, a guy like Pete Alonso, but it's good to see Lindor get traction going here. Marte the past week has really picked up the pace, and then McNeil, quiet-ish start to the year for him. That's kind of the way he plays anyway. I mean, he's a quiet type of player in that sense. And then the nightcap for that, this is where we really got into, I guess, the quote-unquote pitching matchup of the day. Max Scherzer, Logan Webb. Scherzer coming away with the victory. Mets came away with the victory 3-1, so they swept the doubleheader on Tuesday. Scherzer picks up the win. Logan Webb the loss. Trevor May picked up the save. This is going to be an interesting thing to watch with the Mets kind of moving forward. And we've touched on it a couple of times about their bullpen. We'll touch on it again really here after we kind of recap the series. But Trevor May picked up the save. Interesting there. I believe it's, I don't know, I know it's not his first true save with the Mets, but it's pretty interesting the timing of it. Mm-hmm. Your top performers for the Mets, obviously Max Scherzer, 7 innings pitched, 1 hit, 1 earned, 10 strikeouts, classic Scherzer line.
Yeah, didn't he still have a no-hitter going to the 6th?
Something, I think
fifth,
so.
Maybe?
I think for sure the 6th, Nate, right?
I think it was in the 6th. I happened to be watching that game on SNY. But he was dealing, and it was. I think it's worth noting that it's the second half of the doubleheader, and he said, "I want to pitch that second half." And a lot of times the veterans will come out and throw that first game, first game of the doubleheader. But he wanted to throw that second doubleheader, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, Tuesday was his scheduled day to pitch anyway, so.
Yeah, but they had to put.
Wasn't his pitch count a little too high? And
Yeah, but yeah.
Had the no-hitter going.
Yeah. But I think
been-
Buck probably would have left him in. Buck tends to go that way, so I'm willing to bet Buck would have left him in had he not given up a hit. Anyway, offensively speaking, Lindor again had a Tuesday 2 for 4 with a double and a run in the nightcap, and then Eduardo Escobar showing his face once again 2 for 4, double, 2 RBIs and a run. So great Tuesday for the Mets. Obviously, you're able to pretty much at that point you guarantee the at minimum split of a series, which is always fantastic. Wednesday, the only loss that they had in the series, 5-2. Carlos Rodon picks up the win. Chris Bassett the loss. Jake McGee picks up the save, his second of the year for the Giants. That being said, it's not like the Mets particularly played bad overall. It was just a very tight game. And look, their offense, the main players showed up for them that game. Pete Alonso went 3 for 4, while Escobar 2 for 3, and Brandon Nimmo, coming back off the COVID IL list, went 2 for 4 with a walk. So, your main guys that you needed to probably show up that day did. I know they gave Lindor some time off that day. I know he came in. I believe he did have a couple at bats, but you come off a doubleheader like that, you tend to end up getting a couple guys who usually get some time off the next day. But the main guys that they needed to showed up, just that they just couldn't really push anything across when they needed to.
And we should note that Buck Showalter was not managing that game due to a medical procedure. Mm-hmm. But he was actually back for Thursday afternoon game. Yeah. So he wasn't out too long. But it's kind of crazy that the only time they lost that series is without Buck.
Yeah, I mean, we noted Monday about the really the impact that Buck has kind of had so far, and because look, I mean, it's not his true full staff that he has. There is some holdovers from the Rojas. I wouldn't say really regime, but guys that I think really the Mets kind of hire as coaches, not so much the coaches bring in on their own. And I think that's a really, a key impact thing is having Buck with his own guys. You have the Mets who have guys who have been there, but because, I mean, that's the thing too, right? It's not like the Mets have been terrible the past couple of years. It's that things haven't really panned out the way that they had hoped. So, it's good having, I think, some continuity there, but Buck brings that I think the coaching, managerial, baseball IQ X factor that they needed. Thursday, yesterday, getaway day for pretty much like a lot of the league. It was crazy yesterday. I think there was only one late night game.
Yeah, a lot of afternoon
Yeah.
games.
6-2 win for the Mets. Carlos Carrasco picks up the win, his first on the year, first decision on the year period for him. Same though with the loss, picking up for the Giants was Anthony DeSclafani. Picks up the losses, first one on the year and first decision of the year. Your top performers again, Cookie Carrasco went 7 2/3, 4 hits, 2 earned, 7 strikeouts. Francisco Lindor 3 for 5, home run, RBI, and 2 runs, and then Mark Canha joined the party again, 2 for 4, 2 RBIs for the Mets there. Big series. This is a big one. A lot of us, baseball people kind of tabbed the Giants to not have last year be so much a fluke as maybe some people thought. And look, they're still a really good team. I think they just came up upon, obviously, a Mets team that, is, in my mind, for sure the best in baseball at this point.
And a very confident bunch, and, just the offense has been amazing. And that's kind of what the Giants pitching ran into. I mean, if you look at, the box scores, Lindor is almost in every one, leading the team in hits or, runs batted in. So
now, before we move on to the 3-game set that they have this weekend, I do want to touch on that bullpen again. This is through the first couple weeks of the season. It appears as though the bullpen will be pretty much their one low point. We know the struggles kind of that they have had anyway with the bullpen the past couple of years. I think the only reason why it's going to get amplified this year is because they are that good. That being said, I've been a pretty big Edwin Diaz supporter, guys, since his time in Seattle. I think he's a really good pitcher. I don't know if he's the right fit for the Mets at this point. He had a run where pretty much he had one really good first half of the year for him, and then since then it's been not hit and miss. I don't want to say hit and miss because I don't think that's the proper term to really use for him. But certainly inconsistent.
yeah, I just don't see him as a closer, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe, 7th, 8th inning guy, but not a closer.
So this is where the conundrum comes in because I'm I do like Trevor May. I liked him since he was on Minnesota, since he was even in Rochester. I mean, he poked his head there coming up when they were affiliated with Minnesota. But he's not a true closer either. I mean, I know Minnesota used him in that true closer role. But that was more or less, I wouldn't say he was shoehorned in, but you kind of were coming off the end of the Glenn Perkins era for Minnesota at the time. So he does have experience in that role. I don't think it'd be a lot like, to use the guy who won the first game of the doubleheader, who got the decision in Adam Ottavino. Again, it's a lot like, in my mind, how Colorado used him. I don't think he's a true closer. I think he was kind of just using that role because, one, he's good, probably your best reliever on the team at the point, but he just doesn't have the overall, I guess, rounded aspect of getting and being a closer. So, at this point for the Mets, I'd say that's going to be who they're going to have to target is a closer. That being said, some of the teams that we expected to kind of be bad or rough around the edges aren't quite exactly doing that. For example, obviously the Yankees, we saw it last week against Baltimore, but Baltimore's bullpen is ranked top 10 in the league across the board for, you name the stat, they're doing it. So obviously something like that, I don't know if you can go to Baltimore this year, for example, and be like, hey, and obviously I'm going to date myself a couple years ago, it's like, hey, give us, Michael Givens. So it's going to be tough because you're not going to be able to pull from Syracuse. Obviously we'll touch on them anyway later on, but you don't have that ability this year to kind of dip into the minor league pool and grab somebody, at least at the immediate spot.
Yeah, see, the way the pitching situation is early on and, with the shortened spring training, I think it's kind of good to have multiple guys that you could, throw in there to try to close out a game.
Mm-hmm.
So, as for like Trevor May and Edwin Diaz, like I don't think you should just name, one closer right now.
Right.
I think you should kind of mix and match based on who pitched previous days and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So it's good to see that Trevor May could close out a game.
Right.
So Buck
You
Showalter
still got it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting spot because it kind of mirrors the Yankees for sure in this regard.
I think the Yankees definitely have a bunch of guys too.
Right.
As we've already kind of seen a little bit.
Right.
That could close out a game.
Obviously, we'll touch on the Yankees a little bit, but I kind of mentioned that because really last week until last weekend they were kind of middling with Chapman a little bit, struggling, and he picked it up over against Detroit, obviously, but it's just weird how kind of baseball's operating right now. Obviously we really focus here, right, on the New York teams, right, Yankees, Mets, now obviously in the minor league stuff, but like baseball as a whole, I don't know if you guys knew this because I know this from the betting side of things here, but yesterday there were no lead changes after the fifth inning in any game, and there has been it's been a historically crazy low rate of blown saves this year. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. I would have to look it up, but it's a crazy low number. So, and that's the thing I mentioned. I don't know if teams are going to be fully willing to kind of part with pieces they got. Obviously, if your team's super bad by the time July 31st, August 1 comes around, you're going to probably parting with a guy because you can get top prospects who are at least major league ready talent to plug right back in. But that being said, you're not going to see. I don't think you're going to see any movement. I thought you'd see some trades in a weird way. Baseball, you usually never see the early season trades happen. And when you do, it's usually like the way we saw at the end of spring training, where really all you're doing is kind of moving around depth pieces almost. But I figured the way the lockout was this year, I figured we would see the rare early season name moves, and we just haven't. So
the last few days we have seen a couple relievers get swapped from.
Yeah.
I think it was Chicago and Atlanta.
Yeah, Chicago and Atlanta swapped Newcomb and Chavez,
but nothing too crazy.
right? But again, that's a depth scenario though. Nothing really more or less other than that. So, yeah, it's just weird. So let's jump into previewing the Mets series. They go ahead, and it's effectively kind of like playing a home and home, almost in college basketball or football in a way. They're on the road, and they're playing Arizona this weekend. Played them last weekend, obviously, in New York. So they are getting their Diamondbacks fill out of the way pretty early this year. This is a Diamondback team that, we mentioned not great, but it will be interesting to kind of see, again, obviously focusing more on the New York baseball scene. This is a team that I don't know if you guys have seen, but all of a sudden I'm laying in bed Wednesday night, and I'm perusing the baseball subreddit, and there's a couple reliable people on there saying that there's reliable enough information that Arizona is at minimum exploring a move to Austin, Texas. So this is a team that's very much so in an interesting spot. You don't like hearing any of those type of rumors, especially coming off of a lockout where things are shaky enough as is anyway, and now you have more shaky ground anyway. The Arizona sports scene is not fun right now, I'd say.
Yeah.
Anyway, tonight, 9:40 on SNY. David Peterson getting the start here, so it's going to be really interesting to kind of see how he's done. He's kind of been in that flex role to start the year, but with the Taijuan Walker injury, it kind of seems like they're going to stick with him. He's done really well in the two outings,
and I'm
to
pretty
fill
sure
in for him.
Walker's close to returning. I think
Right.
he threw in a rehab game the other day. So.
Yeah. So Peterson, again, a great little early season reclamation project almost for the Mets. He's going against Arizona's probable ace for sure at this point in Zach Gallen. Looking at his first decision on the year there. So that'll be a really cool pitching matchup in my mind with that. Tomorrow, Saturday, 8:10 start on your local WPIX affiliate. This is an interesting one. This is to be announced versus to be announced for both teams. I think the doubleheader kind of messed with the Mets a little bit, and the Diamondbacks have more or less been testing out a bunch of different guys really to start the year in that 5 spot
Yeah,
for
they
them.
don't really have a set rotation.
Yeah.
I don't think right now.
To be announced might be my favorite player, and also player to be named later.
I was about to say right up
Is
there
he-
with cash
yeah.
considerations.
And cash considerations.
Yeah,
Those are
yeah.
3 great players.
3 top
in the MLB.
prospects all the time. Just still waiting on them though. They're brewing. They're marinating. And then Sunday 4:10, obviously on the West Coast, so 4:10, not 1:10. Again on your local WPIX affiliate, Taylor Maygill, 2-0 on the year, 2.20 ERA versus the old man Madison Bumgarner, 0-1 on the year, about a 1.38 ERA. So
Yeah, I like this pitching matchup.
yeah, this one will be interesting. I've never been super high on Mad Bum. I think if you were to look on the Paul Russo Wayback Twitter machine circa 2016, I was very off that narcotic of Madison Bumgarner and his ways. Yeah, he's been in this weird cycle the past 2 years where I just can't make heads or tails of what he's actually going to be.
It seems to be off to a solid start.
Yeah, I don't know about him, but either way, I do expect at minimum Mets to win this series.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I will go on the limb. I expect them to probably sweep the Diamondbacks here, but yeah, I'd say at minimum they take the series 2-1 at minimum.
Yep.
All right, let's switch gears. We'll go to the new Mets in the Yankees. Coming off a series win against Detroit, there is some positives here, but the negatives, again, still very glaring for them, and I don't think we'll see the end in sight too much. Let's go with the recaps first. Tuesday, obviously off day on Monday for them. Tuesday, 4-2 victory. Clark Schmidt picks up the win coming out of the bullpen, which we'll touch on, obviously.
First career MLB win.
Yeah, how about that? I didn't know that. So he's 1-2 now in the year, a 1.23 ERA, which is very good to see for him, I'd say, after the first appearance on the year. Looked pretty raggy. Tyler Alexander picked up the loss for Detroit, and Ross Chapman picks up the save, his second on the year at that point, your top performers. Obviously, Clark Schmidt going 3 1/3 coming out of the bullpen. Early on, only gave up 2 hits and had 6 strikeouts. Connor Falefa, 2 for 3, a walk, a run. Perhaps more importantly, 2 stolen bags. This is going to become a theme here with this series, at least the first couple games. And then Aaron Hicks, 1 for 2, 2 walks, an RBI, 2 runs, and a stolen base. But, and justifiably so, the main headline coming from that game is Garrett Cole only going 1 2/3. I'm not going to run away from the fact. I'm not going to sit here and be, I guess, maybe like some of the bigger, national side media types running away from the fact that Garrett Cole didn't do spider. I mean, and I don't know if it was spider tech per se. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and tell you whatever. Here's what I will tell you about spider tech. I've been around it before. It's very difficult to outright use just in general. Usually you have to do something with resin or something like that in order to kind of not make it be like super glue to yourself pretty much. That being said, Garrett Cole obviously used something, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not going to run away from the fact that he did or didn't. I think that has had an effect. Obviously the numbers don't lie since the MLB cracked down May of last year, or early June rather of last year on it.
But the thing is, if you look at his splits from last year, there was a point in time right after the crackdown where he threw that complete game in Houston and looked, very good. He threw that 8 shutout innings in Los Angeles. Like, he just looked really good. But then he had that hamstring injury, and at the end of the year, he struggled again. And then, the wild card game, he got lit up. And then, obviously, the start to this year, he's been bad. But you see those few starts after the crackdown where he was pretty solid.
Yeah.
So he's not as bad as he's been this year.
Right.
But at the same time, it is concerning against Detroit's offense, not making out of the second inning. Yeah, you can say it's cold, but they're MLB pitchers. They've been in cold environments before. And I don't know. I don't think I'm concerned really yet. But if this continues through May and all that, I think it's time to be concerned.
So this is where I definitely agree with you. He's good enough to figure this out. When he first got started in Pittsburgh, he was not using any substances that we know of at that point. The staff at the time in Pittsburgh came up in the Clint Hurdle era and Clint Hurdle staff. They were really good at kind of rehabbing and kind of building pitchers back up and the young guys as well at the time. I mean, I think the biggest pitcher at that time to kind of have the couple extra years at his career because of that was Francisco Liriano, who ended up becoming really the ace of that Pirates staff when they made the what was it, 4 straight years into the playoffs via the wild card, 3 straight years, I think. Yeah, 3 straight, 13 through 15. Or no, it was 4, 12 through 15, I think. Either way, he kind of was so. Garrett Cole is under that tutelage, I think, and I don't want to paint this picture because I've personally have moved on from the Houston nonsense at this point. I think, full disclosure, being a Yankee fan, we don't have much room to talk at this point. We very well could see today be the day where that record gets released and opened for our own sign stealing nonsense, as I'll call it at this point. That being said, I don't think he was really up to anything until he got to Houston in a way. That being said, again, this is where I'd want to do the full disclosure and whatever. Houston's not the only team doing any of this, right? I mean, it's whatever. I mean, teams across the league give their own pitchers whatever to aid to, make it more of a challenge for your opposing team, right?
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Right. I mean, no. I mean, I know it's that saying is kind of used tongue in cheek to a degree, but it's spot on, right? I mean, if you don't push the envelope, I mean, you're not going to succeed. At least in the win column, in the win-loss column, you're not going to succeed. So eventually, Garrett Cole's a good enough pitcher; he'll figure this out. I'm with you there. I don't know if I jump the shark just yet with him in May. Like, I don't know. I think, and this goes back to kind of like what I was mentioning during the Mets discussion about how pitching right now is kind of like in this really weird, I wouldn't say just like peak, but like we haven't seen some of the stuff that we're seeing quite before. I kind of think the pitchers kept themselves a little bit in better shape than the offense overall so far in through the lockout and everything like that. So I don't know what Garrett Cole's deal is. I don't know if he's just in his head or what. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if at this point I say get through May and then start to worry, or do we start worrying in a couple starts if it's still like this? Like, I don't know. Mechanically speaking, he looks pretty much the same. I don't see too much difference out of anything. I'll say this. I noticed in Detroit, he almost looked like he was more being straight up a lot of times than what he usually is. That being said, I mean, he's a bigger guy anyway. So the taller pitchers tend to usually not finish, I guess. Right? I mean, the only taller pitchers I remember ever being able to like truly like finish was Randy Johnson. That's just because of the way his own motion was. He kind of naturally would kind of fall into finishing. So I don't know. I'll say this. It's concerning outright anyway, just because of the amount of money tied up on him.
Yep.
So,
yeah, just to clarify, I'm not making excuses for Garrett at all, but I'm just saying,
right.
I mean, we are only in April, the first
right.
month of the season. Let's give it a couple more starts. I mean, it is almost May. Mm-hmm. And if it continues, then I think it's time to be concerned.
Right.
But at the same time, people got to understand, he's not going to be the same pitcher he was in Houston.
No.
Not even close.
No.
And obviously it's because of the crackdown on the sticky stuff, but still, I don't think it's time to worry just yet.
Right. Let's move on to Wednesday's game. 5-3 Yankee win. Chad Green picks up the win there. His first win on the year out of the bullpen. Drew Hutchison takes the loss for Detroit. Chapman picks up another save, his third on the year there. Luis Severino, no decision, but did get through the fifth inning, gave up 7 hits and an earned run, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Still, though, he's looking really good, all things considered, after having pretty much not pitched for 2 full years.
1 earned run in 5 innings, you should be getting a win, but the offense has been that bad.
Right, and we'll really jump more into that after we touch on the Thursday game, obviously. Anthony Rizzo continues his early season. I'll call it peaks at the moment. 2 for 4, home run and a double, 2 RBIs, 2 runs, and a stolen base.
Yeah, I was thinking about that yesterday. Where would the Yankees be without Rizzo right now? Let's just say Luke Voit was still there. Like, do you think they have about the same record, or like, what do you think about the situation?
It's probably, I think you just swap the numbers in the record around. Instead of being 7-6, probably 6-7.
Because Rizzo really has been lifting the
Yeah, I
offense.
mean Rizzo's been pretty much that catalyst, like you said. It's just tough because I don't know. I say this because I mean, like Luke Voigt's batting, I think like a $150 right now in San Diego, and
Off to a
and
little slow
he's a
start.
little bit wrapped up in his own controversy going on out there. I don't know if you saw how he tackled pretty much Tyler Stevenson for the Reds, but it's a bit of an interesting.
And Voigt's defense.
Yeah,
And
I
he's
mean,
not Rizzo.
yeah. So
So
I don't know. I don't know if it makes too much of a difference. Maybe it's 5-8.
yeah,
Maybe.
I'm just saying I definitely think they'd be a little worse
Right.
with
No, no,
Voit
I
right now.
definitely agree there. Definitely agree there. And then Connor Falefa again, 2 for 4, two double and an RBI. So nice to see IKF kind of turning the corner a little bit and starting to get that groove a little bit.
Doing what everyone thought.
Right.
Getting on base, stealing bases, scoring runs.
Clearly, just kind of get his time to get going a little bit. That's okay. It's not okay is how Thursday went. So Detroit wins 3-0. Pineda picks up the win. Michael Pineda, Yankee legend, picks up his first win for Detroit.
Losing to Pine Tar Pineda is not ideal.
Yeah. Jordan Montgomery took the loss, not really justifiably so. Gregory Soto picks up the save. Montgomery goes 6 innings, 3 hits, and earned a run and 5 strikeouts. Other than that, I struggled to try and find top performers for the Yankees. I did. So I did go Josh Donaldson, who went 1 for 1 because it was a pinch hit double he hit. Hard to blame him when you're coming off the bench, but you're doing that and then get stranded out there. LeMahieu went 1 for 4. I mean, other than that, it was rough, and this is where we can start really having that discussion of this Yankee offense.
Yeah, I guess LeMahieu is the lone bright spot
Yeah.
because he extended his hitting streak to 8 games, so that's pretty good.
Yeah. It's been, we touched on this, I know, last week. The Yankees can't seem to have one end of their game be off for the whole team to more or less not really step up. This is now really the second out of 4 games, and the 2 out of the last 4 games they've had pitchers who, and I think we expected more out of Montgomery to have these games because obviously he was brought up being this top prospect. I think a lot of people kind of tapped him to be almost the next Pettit in a way. Nasty Nestor Cortez, we didn't expect that Sunday performance. I mean, you can't expect the way he started the year. You just can't. That being said, I mean, he's been phenomenal to get going, and I'm not going to sit here and complain. He's been phenomenal since he pretty much got brought back up to the Yankees last year. But you can't have those performances by those guys and then just not do anything with them. They've, scored a combined 1 run in those games?
And
So,
eventually,
I mean,
pitchers-
actually, no, combined, no. That's right. The Yankees got shut out by Baltimore Sunday. So, you can't have situations like that where it happens and then, you talked about how, against like Detroit's offense, to be fair to Detroit, I think that offense is a little bit better than meets the eye, but you brought up a good point. They're without Javi Baez right now. So that throws this equation in there. And look, they got a couple guys of their namesake guys the past couple of years who just aren't on the team anymore, like a Nico Goodrum. He's not there anymore. It's a new kind of face of the team almost in a way, right? Where Javi Baez is there, but he's out, and you can't put up anything against him.
Yeah. And other than, I think it was the first night, they pretty much shut down Miguel Cabrera. Like, they didn't really, he didn't really do too much damage against them. So if you take him away, too, like, you should not be losing to this team. I mean, look at, even on paper, it's like, it's laughable looking at, the rosters. Like, how did this team, not sweep? How did this team, only score 9 runs in 3 games?
That being said, there is some confidence boosting stuff in the series, but like I said, the positives kind of get outshone by the negatives at this point. I mean, I need to see how you feel about this. So, I tweeted about it yesterday when they intentionally walked Cabrera, which one I did not like. in the slightest. With 2 outs, just go right at him at that point. In my mind, how you don't walk after Cabrera, Austin Meadows had that
Bloop.
I wouldn't even call it a flare, right? I mean, I wouldn't even call it a bloop. It might have been just like a duck. I mean, he swung. The thing was literally jammed in, and he was able to shove it out to left center above Kiner Falefa. And 2 runs come in. And at that point, you have the same situation where you have runners on third and second, or whatever it was. But you don't walk Eric Haase, who is the next batter. To me, it's just mind-boggling how you put yourself in that situation and you don't follow through with it. Personally, like I said, I'd go right at him. I don't even know if it's don't want to give up the 3,000 hit, be damned. Go right at him. Because to me at that point, when you don't do the same with Haase, what are you doing? You're the managerial, the tactic at that point's out the door to me.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I like the move. I know what you're saying about, after the Meadows, facing him didn't make any sense either. But Miguel Cabrera and Haase are 2 different, way different hitters. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of why Boone went, did that.
I mean, you're right. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and disagree and act as if Eric Haase is one of the greatest hitters who's ever lived. But that being said, it's just the in the moment aspect of it where it's just what are you doing?
And Lidke, let's be honest, is not.
He shouldn't have been out there at that point.
And he's not really a powerful pitcher,
right?
So I don't know. I mean, either way, they weren't going to win the game. They didn't score a run.
Yeah,
if
right.
This was
at this point, it is a moot point, like you said, in that regard.
But I don't know. I mean, I understand Detroit fans being upset. They paid for tickets. They wanted to see history. But at the same time, you're there to win the game,
right? And that's what Miggy said too. Yep. I mean,
yeah, I kind of liked how the yes camera put it on him. He was telling the fans to calm down,
right.
It's okay, you'll get it tonight or whatever. But
all right, let's move on to looking at the series ahead against the Cleveland Guardians, home for the first time since opening weekend for the Yankees. Tonight on Amazon Prime, so this is one of the you have to pay to watch ones.
That's frustrating.
Yeah, so again, different discussion pretty much for different broadcasts. Eli Morgan for Cleveland gets his first start in the year. He's been working pretty much out of the bullpen for him this year, but did get some starts last year when he got called up. Very good young pitcher. He's 1-0 on the year, 4.50 ERA. Facing off against Jameson Taillon for the Yankees, 0-1, 3.72 ERA. Saturday, 105 on Yes. This is listed, I know, on websites as TBA versus Nestor Cortez. However, it is going to be Kirk McCarty for the Guardians. He'll be making his MLB debut against Nasty Nestor Cortez on Saturday. And then Sunday, 135 also on Yes. Aaron Savali, 1-0 and 6.14 ERA versus Garrett Cole, 0-0. 6.35 ERA. So, hey, might just have a offensive outlash on both teams for Sunday. Who knows, right? Look, this is a Cleveland Guardian team who is, I think, a little bit better than maybe some people kind of thought. That lineup is about as good as it's really ever has been at this point in the Francona era, and the pitching's kind of living up to the bill. Now, we aren't going to see really their best starting pitcher this series, at least at the start of this year, in Zach Plesac, who's having a nice rebound to start the year.
Yeah, he pitched yesterday against Chicago.
And we more than likely won't see, I know they used him the first couple times out of the bullpen, but since then he's been back in the starting rotation. We won't see Tristan McKenzie likely as well, either for Cleveland. But like I said, I mean, that lineup is just about as good as it ever has been under Francona. I mean, Jose Ramirez is the best hitter in baseball right now.
Doesn't he already have 20 runs batted in?
Yeah, he's on pace to something absurd, where it's 300 RBI.
I think it's Stephen Kwan, right?
Yep, Steve Kwan.
Yeah, he's been
on sanity.
He's been off to a terrific start too. So yeah, they're definitely better than expected.
Yeah. This is look. These are the series that really are key for the Yankees at this point early on in the year.
Honestly,
I think oh, go ahead.
As bad as the offense has been, I think at this point you just try to keep winning 2 out of 3.
Right. So, like I said, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think this is a series at the start of the year that would be the case. I'm worried that we don't win the series, though. I really have a feeling where it might be 1-2.
And I'm pretty sure if you look at his career numbers against the Yankees, Jose Ramirez absolutely destroys the
Right.
Yankees.
Yeah. So let's before we head on out here, we got to touch on our minor league brethren, the Rochester Red Wings and the Syracuse Mets. Currently, Rochester, we'll start with them because this is going to be really quick for both teams because we got to get out of here. 8-7 now on the year, tied fourth in the IL East. They dropped the first two games against Lehigh Valley, 6-1, then 12-4, but they did win yesterday, 6-5. The issue with the Red Wings this week has been the Rochester, their parent team with Washington. They've made a few recalls, sent a couple guys down, so this roster's kind of been fluid the past couple days. Hard to kind of have continuity when that happens. That being said, just some positive. Luis Garcia was named IL Player of the Week last week. We mentioned Monday the tear he was on. Show after podcast was announced he was the IL Player of the Week last week. 14 hits, 519 average, and 23 total bases last week. Other than that, their offense has been really good still nonetheless. Nick Banks now has his average up to 372. That's top 5 in the International League. He's done spectacular so far to start the year. Him, Jake Knoll, Garcia, as we mentioned, Andrew Stevenson got brought back down really, I think it was mid last week, but now he's getting the playing time back. And Joey Meneses, they're all kind of leading the offensive balance. It's been really cool to see with that. But again, their pitching has been the question mark a little bit here. That being said, I know Carl Edwards Jr. got the win yesterday, but really the star in the bullpen so far, as much as Carl Edwards has kind of been that guy, really is actually Tyler Clippard. He's pretty much leading the charge ERA-wise, strikeout-wise for them out of the bullpen. It does have some holds. He's doing really good, all things considered, with the starters kind of struggling a little bit, and he's really picking up the load out of the bullpen for him. Syracuse Mets, team that we jokingly said was dead at the start of the week. They are 4-10. They have taken the first 3 games against Worcester. I don't understand how. I'm not going to sit here and question things.
Yeah,
But
we were totally wrong, but that's okay. It's good to see, one of the local AAA affiliates, starting to win some games.
that being said, really it's been one-sided affair on offense for them with Daniel Palka. He's leading the team in runs, home runs, and RBIs. Officially, their team leader does have 2 wins, Anthony Vizcaya, but he still has an ERA above 8, which is not good. And this is an interesting stat that I saw that I do want to bring up. So the Syracuse Mets only have 5 qualifying hitters that would register on the International League leader list right now. For the International League leader list, as is all baseball, you have to average above 2.8 at-bats per games that you have played. That's not good that you only have 5, and those 5 right now, Blankenhorn, whose average is 179, Fantios, whose average is 184, Rincon, who is still leading the league in average. It did get bumped up over the course of the past couple games, now up to 268. Khalil Lee, whose average is .088.
Oof, rough start.
And Cortez, who has a 103 average. So this Syracuse Met offense, it's weird. The Mets pitching, I thought we kind of thought was going to be kind of their, I guess, struggle to really for the year. When in actuality, it's almost borderline been what's, if anything, kept them in it with these games. I mean, their offense just is not showing up, and at the very least, you have Palka kind of getting going a little bit, even though his average isn't quite there, and he's not eligible for the IL League lead yet for anything.
Yeah, how did this team score 10 runs last night?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with the Red Sox. I don't know what the deal is, but
And then
baseball is baseball sometimes.
last week, I think they put up 12.
Yeah.
How?
Baseball's baseball. It's weird. I'm not going to sit here and question things, I guess. I don't know. I love baseball. It's why just stuff like this is why I love it. You just don't know. So, all right. That wraps up the episode for today. Kyle, any fun plans for the weekend or anything like that?
Probably just watching baseball, NBA playoffs, and some NHL.
Attaboy, Nate. Anything fun for you?
I think I'm going to go to the Amherst game tomorrow night. Amherst's fighting for the playoffs. If you're a hockey fan, I know Kyle is. So
Flair.
they are definitely hopeful there. Points percentage is looking really close. I believe the Marlies are close with them, right?
Uh-oh.
Right.
They need the Marlies, I think, to lose a few games. And
All right. then yeah, I'll be watching baseball, Talladega for NASCAR, so it'll be fun. Anyway, Concrete Jungle New York Baseball podcast available on YouTube, catch up there, also on Anchor and Spotify. We will be back to our usual schedule Monday and Thursdays next week, barring anything crazy. Appreciate Nate Sharman behind the scenes producing. For Kyle Evans, I'm Paul Russo. We will talk to everybody on Monday. Have a great weekend.